Katie, can you walk us through the key moments of the speech?
You know, Donald Trump really set the tone off the start, saying he wants to be president for all Americans. There's no point in being president for half the country. And his speech tonight started off as a speech to all Americans, and then it turned into a speech that was really for the people who were inside this room and not necessarily going to appeal beyond that. Donald Trump's tone started, he appeared somber. He was trying to appear restrained as he told Americans his firsthand account of what it's like to survive an assassination attempt. Inside this arena where thousands and thousands of people were, his most enthusiastic supporters were in this room, they were silent with the odd cheer of praise God as Donald Trump was going step by step, recounting as he was standing on that stage when he was hit in the ear by that bullet, how he dropped to the ground and the Secret Service jumped on him to protect him. He then described the moment that has now become the rallying cry for his base.
The crowd was confused because they thought I was dead, and there was great, great sorrow. I could see that on their faces as I looked out. They didn't know I was looking out. They thought it was over. But I could see it, and I wanted to do something to let them know I was okay. I raised my right arm, looked at the thousands and thousands of people that were breathlessly waiting, and started shouting, "Fight, fight, fight." Thank you.
You can see it from the Trump supporters in the crowd there. That is the thing we heard over and over this past week when you talk to people. They saw the image of Donald Trump on that stage with his fist in the air, and they hope to take the momentum, the way that this crowd has been galvanized by that horrific incident on Saturday, and take that build momentum moving into the next phase of the election campaign. But when it came to the tone and trying to deliver a unifying message, Adrienne, when Trump finished his story about his experience, that's where it kind of ended.
So, Katie, yeah, after he shared that story about what happened, you're right, the tone completely shifted.
Yeah, and we heard the Donald Trump that we hear out on the campaign trail. We heard him, air some of his grievances. It wasn't as much as he typically does when he's out on the campaign trail. We didn't hear the personal insults. He only said Joe Biden's name once. He didn't insult the prosecutors who have led investigations into him. But he did seem to point the finger at Democrats, saying, if everyone's looking to me to create a moment of unity, what can the Democrats do? And he seemed to suggest that if the Democrats want unity in this country, that they can use their power, is in sort of his way of putting it, to drop the investigations, the criminal investigations into him. Donald Trump has consistently argued, without presenting any evidence, that all of the criminal charges against him are politically motivated. And he made that pitch again to air that grievance.
We must not criminalize dissent or demonize political disagreement, which is what's been happening in our country lately at a level that nobody has ever seen before. In that spirit, the Democrat Party should immediately stop weaponizing the justice system and labeling their political opponent as an enemy of democracy. Especially since that is not true. In fact, I am the one saving democracy for the people of our country.
Trump also made reference to the 2020 election and his lie that it was stolen from him. So that's what we heard from the grievance side. We also heard him use some divisive language, especially when speaking about immigration.
We also have an illegal immigration crisis, and it's taking place right now as we sit here in this beautiful arena. It's a massive invasion at our southern border that has spread misery, crime, poverty, disease, and destruction to communities all across our land. Nobody's ever seen anything like it.
So it wrapped the way Trump normally wraps his events, with really that same kind of rhetoric we've heard from him throughout his political career.
Thank you so much, Katie Simpson and team in Milwaukee. So here's someone we haven't seen much of throughout Trump's campaign, his wife Melania. shown here earlier at the Republican convention, taking her seat. That was her first and only appearance throughout the last 4 days, opting to stay entirely out of the spotlight. So next, let's bring in Paul Hunter. Paul, a lot of talk about whether we would see a different side of Trump tonight after what happened last weekend.
Yeah, it's perplexing, isn't it? I mean, he had this great big opportunity to redefine himself for the many, many, many millions who'd be tuning in because this was his first big speech since that event. And it's like he tried to have it both ways. We talk about that first part and the second part. And the first part, yeah, different Donald Trump. Second part, same old, same old, same old, right? We've heard all this stuff before. If the idea here was to win over undecideds, to win over the fabled, moms in the suburbs of Philadelphia who might have been Republican once and then fell away and draw them back in, well, this is the Donald Trump that we've known all along. If everything changed on that Saturday afternoon in Butler, Pennsylvania, right, then in a sense, evidenced here tonight, fact is nothing changed.
And you've been to lots of these conventions before. There's always something unusual about them, something that you go home and tell your friends about, like, oh, I saw this thing. What was that thing that stood out for you?
That one thing. You know what struck me? I was thinking back to 2016 in Cleveland at this point in the Republican convention then. And he had that speech filled with fear and darkness and crime and illegals and all those things. And you almost felt too afraid to step outside the arena. Like, it's so awful out there. It was stunning. Here, we effectively heard the same thing in that second part of his speech. Maybe a smidge softer, but effectively the same message. Water off duck's back. It's like, I don't feel anything about that. It's like he has normalized all of that. And that, the normalization of all of that, is the America that Donald Trump, in a sense, has created.
Interesting. Paul, your analysis is always appreciated. Thank you, and to your team there in Milwaukee.